The magician is the second archetype of the major arcana, and he primarily represents focused attention and concentration, which is one of the first steps of any creative process. This places him in contrast with the preceding card, the Fool, which represents unfocused consciousness and raw potential. The Fool represents a state of inspiration and the openness necessary to receive it, while the magician represents the next step in the creative process, that being the refinement of any inspired ideas or lofty dreams into a more practical, achievable form. He is associated with the number 1, which corresponds to self-consciousness, single-mindedness, initiating action, and the idea of creating something new. This also tracks with the magician's placement on the Kabbalistic tree of life, which runs from Kether, crown, to Bina, understanding, meaning he represents a restriction or refinement of unlimited divine intelligence, represented by Kether, by the reductive nature of the conscious mind, represented by Bina. While mental focus is a main theme here, the magician and his tools are also symbolic of the esoteric creative process in its entirety. Each tool symbolizes a stage of this process, and each corresponds with one of the 4 elements of Western occultism: fire, air, water, and earth, with spirit sometimes included as the transcendent 5th element. These elements also correspond to the ways in which our soul or higher self manifests its presence within us, that is, through our awareness itself and through our willing, thinking, feeling, and action. The wand, as an emblem of fire, represents willpower, which can also be thought of as directed desire or intention. It's the initiating spark of the creative process, preceded in creative order only by the 5th element of spirit, which is consciousness itself. The magician's ritual blade or sword, signifying elemental air, represents the mind, concentration, and the task of eliminating unnecessary elements from one's creative space, symbolized by the altar. The cup or chalice represents the role of emotions and the intuitive nature of the subconscious mind in the creative process. The emotions, stirred by the will and focused with the mind, provide more fuel for inspiration, while also serving as a guiding intuitive force. The subconscious mind provides a gestational space for ideas from the conscious mind to coalesce into larger constellations of mental and emotional significance over time. These inner networks of desires, ideas, and emotions, which we could also call patterns of willing, thinking, and feeling, eventually solidify into deeper systems of belief and motivation, which give the final impetus for creative actions to be taken. Like a root system branching out from a tree, these inner motivational networks also provide a means for the soul to become more deeply embodied within our physical form. With every action we take in alignment with our will, the stronger our connection with our spiritual nature becomes. And this connection will eventually become an inner reality that we can feel and live within like any other mental or emotional state. This is how, through us, spirit, which is higher consciousness, works its way into matter, which is slumbering, densified consciousness, in order to liberate it from its nascent state. The pentacle or disc, representing elemental earth, symbolizes this last step in the process, the coming together of fire, air, and water in the form of will, focus, and emotional intuition to bring something new into being from raw mental energy. The planet associated with the magician is Mercury, which corresponds astrologically to business and commerce, communication and travel, science and magic, mental activity and adaptability. Mercury is more often associated with the quick thinking and analytical nature of the conscious mind, but both as a god and as a planet, he is also symbolic of the interplay between conscious and subconscious, and between the body and soul. So he is often placed into the archetype of psychopomp, which is a being or class of beings that can traverse easily between different planes of existence or different states of consciousness, and can aid others in doing the same. The Greek messenger god Hermes, later Romanized as Mercury, is a well-known example of such a being in mythology, and the god Thoth is often considered his Egyptian counterpart. This planetary correspondence suits the magician well, as many occultists hold that all magic fundamentally is a practice of bringing the dual aspects of mind, conscious and subconscious, or analytical and imaginative, into harmony, into an act of creative union with one another, which brings about a state of self-knowledge or gnosis. This union is called the Hermetic Marriage and is one of the symbolic meanings of the caduceus staff, which is the planetary sigil for Mercury. It shows the masculine and feminine aspects of mind as two serpents achieving a state of generative power through their coiled unity. The Mercury sigil can also be interpreted as a solar disk coupled with a lunar crescent, an alchemical symbol representing this same idea of united opposites, and a unified mind resting atop a cross, which signifies the body. The Magician card, however, usually depicts a person at the beginning stages of this process of unification, a person only just becoming acquainted with the presence of their subconscious mind and familiarizing themselves with the creative elements of their inner being. The Lover's card, numbered 6 among the major arcana, depicts this union closer to its completion. The number 8 above the magician's head is associated with Mercury as well, due to its placement as the 8th Sephira on the Tree of Life. It can also be interpreted as an infinity sign conveying the unlimited creative capacity of human consciousness. And 8 is a number esoterically associated with rhythm and the processes of involution and evolution. Clustered around this card's border, we see red roses, which usually have 5 petals in their natural state, and white lilies, which always have 6 petals. These are stand-ins for the pentagram and hexagram. The pentagram symbolizes the unity of the 4 worldly elements joined by the 5th, as mentioned earlier, and it represents man as a creative microcosm, while the hexagram symbolizes harmony achieved through the union of opposites in the greater creative macrocosm of the universe, which we each participate in on an individual scale. Paired together, these symbols represent the striving of the magician to achieve a state where his personal creative impulses are aligned with the more expansive creative aims of the cosmos and the destiny being forged for him by his higher self. In its highest form, this state of alignment is called cosmic consciousness, a state of mind and conviction that suspends the illusion of separation between self and other, and between self and soul. The red roses are also symbolic of desire, sometimes considered a lower expression of love, while the white lilies are symbolic of rebirth and the exaltation of desire into a more spiritual or transcendent form of love, one which seeks to elevate and liberate rather than merely gratify. Aside from the yellow background, which symbolizes the mental nature of this card, red and white are the most abundant colors used, appearing also on the magician's robes. As garment colors, red and white together represent the occult teaching that the higher self or soul, also called the higher ego or inner being, works directly through the blood to bring about changes to the physical body of the magician, that is, of any person who is devoted to a path of spiritual growth and self-development. This is done to gradually transform the physical and subtle bodies of an initiate into a more suitable and lucid vessel for the higher self. This spiritualization of the blood can also bring about heightened sensitivity to mental, emotional, and energetic phenomena of all kinds, and this is the process by which certain occult powers are developed. The Hebrew letter assigned to the magician is Beth, which means house. This correspondence again indicates the nature of man as his own creative microcosm, the master of his own creative space. We also tend to regard the most basic form of a house as 4 walls with a roof joining them over top, which corresponds to the idea of the 4 worldly elements joined by the 5th, consciousness or spirit. As well, the soul or higher self maintains its home, its embodiment in us through our consciousness itself, and through our willing, thinking, feeling, and action. Every major arcana card can be said to signify a certain magical action or meditation technique, and the magician symbolizes carrying out the creative process in full by keeping these elements of willing, thinking, feeling, and acting in alignment and within one's field of awareness until a task has been completed. In some cases, it takes a lot of work to rewire ourselves back into this more natural state of alignment with our soul's inner guidance, due to how easily and how far we can stray from it without noticing. And much of the practical introspective work we do as enlightenment seekers and magicians is centered on this so-called path of return. Discovering which of our creative elements are out of touch with the rest can be a good place to start. And this is where the simpler magic of caring for our body, mind, emotions, and desires can come into play. Also closely associated with the Magician card are acts of magic that focus on protecting one's personal sphere of influence and creative space, like the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram and other space-clearing rituals. The LBRP essentially has the practitioner erect 4 walls around himself by drawing elementally charged pentagrams in the air. It is also one of the first rituals that many modern magicians learn and use regularly in their practice, making it a good fit for this card's depiction of a novice magician. The use of this ritual also helps us acknowledge that there are underlying mental and energetic realities that must exist and take form at a subtler level before they can emerge as physical realities. The LBRP and similar practices gradually train us to feel into these less tangible realities, namely the astral and etheric planes, and to use our mind and imagination to directly influence them. And this is how magic is done, how mind is used to influence matter. To explain further, we imagine precursor realities into the astral plane, the world of dreams, imaginations, and mind substance, which constantly interpenetrates and permeates the etheric and physical planes. When astral substance accumulates over time, it begins to imprint on and give shape to the substance of the etheric plane, which is like a purely energetic blueprint for the physical plane. Then, matter gathers around these etheric forms to recreate them in the physical world. We all participate in this process of manifestation automatically. Even our most random daydreams contribute to it, but the lessons we learn from the magician archetype can empower us to take a more conscious and active role in this process of moving mind and emotion into matter. Despite the depiction of a somewhat elaborate-looking ritual setup in this card, the better advice for beginners on the magician's path is usually to meditate and to focus on mindfulness at first. Taking good care of our mental garden by observing the state and tendencies of our desires, thoughts, emotions, and actions is another suggestion offered by the imagery here. The magician is an extremely broad archetype, especially in the context of esotericism, but I believe I've managed to cover many of his most important themes and occult correspondences in this video, and I hope you found it enjoyable and informative. Next video, we're covering the High Priestess card, so stick around and subscribe if you're interested. Thanks.